Hi, welcome back. I'm John Hale, and I am a Maryland backyard beekeeper. So in today's episode, we're going to do our first full hive inspection. So we bought two 5-frame nucleuses, and we installed them into our 8-frame equipment. And so now we're going to do our actual first hive inspection. During that hive inspection, we're really going to focus on 3 things. So number 1, we want to see either the queen or the presence of the queen in the form of eggs/larvae. Number 2, we're going to see if they've drawn out comb on those additional frames that I gave them in addition to the 5 frames that came in the nucleus. So we gave them some empty frames and foundation. I want to see if they've started to draw out comb on those. And if they have, then we're going to add an additional deep hive body on top with 8 new frames and foundation for them to continue to expand on. And number 3 is we're going to feed them. And as we go through that whole process, we're going to check every frame to make sure that we see the presence of the various stages of the development and that the bees are generally healthy and everything looks like it's going well. So that's kind of the basis of the inspection today. And so stick with me. I hope you like what you see. If you do, hit the like button, subscribe, and follow along. Thanks a lot.
So once again, we're going to focus on 3 things during this inspection. So number 1 is I need to open the hives up, remove our top feeder, the Ceracell hive top feeder. This is one of those cases where as I'm going along, I happen to learn when you're doing the inspection, you have to find a place for the feeder to sit. You can't just toss it to the side because it has liquid in it that's open. So ultimately figured out just to set it down nice and gently so it doesn't spill. Add a little smoke to the hive just to calm the bees down a little bit, knowing that I'm going to go in and basically pull every frame. So I saw the queen in the far hive during the initial install, so I'm less worried about that one, but I did not see the queen in this one. So I just want to see either the queen or the presence of the queen in the form of eggs or young larvae. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through each frame one by one and check to see if I can either see the queen or the presence of the queen, and look at the general population, brood pattern, health, make sure that everything's going well. Now, when we moved them into this 8-frame equipment, we did add 3 additional frames of brand new foundation. So I'm going to take a look at those to see if they've actually done anything on them. And of course, this one being on the far outside, I didn't really expect much. The bees were working it a little bit, but there wasn't any comb on those, that one to be said. The other 2 on the outside, this one and the one on the far side, actually had comb on the inside of the hive body. So, facing towards the center of the hive on each side respectively. So that told me that they were drawing comb fairly well, and that I was good to go ahead and add the second brood box on at the end of the inspection. So this one, the bees are working it pretty hard. And then on the side facing inside the hive, they had actually drawn out the comb fairly well. So, and it actually started to store pollen and nectar into those cells. So it's always nice to see fresh white wax in a honeycomb. So since I pulled that first frame out and set it to the side, I just go ahead and put the rest of the frames back in the box, and it gives me enough room to work with them without having to worry about crushing or rolling the bees. This is one of the original frames that came out of the nucleus, this one and the next 4 frames, and it's absolutely chocked full of bees. Wall-to-wall bees, brood in every cell practically. Um, just wall-to-wall bees. I mean, it was loaded.
Lots of drone brood. I'm worried about that.
So here you hear me comment on the drone brood. Um, this particular frame had what I would call wonky comb, and it had a lot of drone brood on it. But the other frames didn't necessarily have a lot of drone brood, but this frame did. It did make me a little concerned that there was a lot of drone on here, just simply because drones don't really provide anything to the hive. While they're necessary for the mating process, they don't really do anything for the bees. So I actually ended up calling my mentor about it and showing him some pictures, and he came over and took a look and made sure that I didn't have anything to worry about. So having a mentor locally is another good benefit of joining a local bee club. You get to have the benefit of having experienced beekeepers near you that can answer your questions or come out and take a look and make sure that you don't have any issues that maybe you don't necessarily recognize yet. So I always encourage people to, if you're interested in beekeeping, join a local beekeepers association and get a mentor, and it'll help out immensely. Now, as you can tell from the weather here, it is a little overcast, it is a little cool, and it is a little windy. So not the ideal conditions to perform an inspection, but it had been a week, and looking forward at the weather was going to be even worse the next couple of days. So I wanted to just take the opportunity that I could and get in there and do it. The bees get a little ornery here or there, but overall, this is a very docile set of bees, as you can see, and they don't really bother me too much. Being careful when I place them back in not to roll any bees. Also being careful not to
On your side, guys.
change the orientation of the frames. So that they're always lined up and in the same order that they were when I took them out. So I was trying to use as little smoke as possible. Smoke is a double-edged sword in beekeeping. It makes the bees kind of go away from where the smoke is, makes them want to gorge and eat honey and kind of get lethargic, and blocks their communication a little bit. But in the same sense, too much smoke can actually make bees upset. It can actually cause them to be more aggressive. So it's a double-edged sword in beekeeping.
Pattern looks really good.
You can hear me comment.
Gotta believe.
I was looking at the brood pattern, and as you can see, it's a very strong brood pattern. So it's a very strong queen. She's laying in every possible cell she has available to her. So I knew I had a good queen. I had a good brood. I just didn't know if she had survived the move from the nucleus into the hive. Since what I'm looking at is brood, capped brood, for the most part. I'm not seeing a lot of larvae and queens on this particular frames. Most of it was capped brood. That just tells me that that capped brood is 21 days old, right? So it's actually 14 days old. So it tells me that there was a good laying queen 14 days ago, but doesn't tell me there's a good laying queen in there right now. So I was still looking for that presence of the queen.
All right, they're getting a little upset now. Little pissy with me.
So when the bees get upset and they don't like what you're doing, they will bonk you in the face. So that's how I was starting to tell that they were starting to get upset at me. Not so much that they're attacking me or anything, but they start to run into your face, into your veil, just kind of as a warning to say, "Hey, we're not happy." Um, so once one or two here or there is not a big deal, but when they start bonking you a lot, then I kind of take a step back and let them cool off a little bit before I continued on. Once again, loaded with bees. Like just when they're hanging off the bottom of the foundation. Um, Absolutely packed. Once again, very, very strong brood pattern. I did start to see eggs and larvae at this point, along with honey in the corners. So this frame had the presence of all the facets um, to at least let me know that I had a good laying queen in the hive. I feel more comfortable wearing gloves. I feel like I can't be as gingerly with the bees as what I want to be, but I feel way more comfortable with the gloves on. I don't see me beekeeping without gloves anytime in the near future. Um, like most things, animals sense your nervousness, and I think if I did not wear gloves, then I would be a lot more nervous around the bees than what I am. So having the gloves on and the suit just makes me feel that much more confident, which kind of bleeds over, and the bees I think feel a lot more calm if I feel calm. So here I am trying to pull out the last frame from the original 5-frame nucleus. I still have not seen the queen, but at least I've seen some eggs and larvae, so I knew she was in there somewhere. And I spotted the queen here, so
Found her.
come up and have a closer look at her. Right there. Now my queens are marked. They are marked with a white dot to signify that they are this year's queens. So at that point, I've seen the queen. I've looked at all of the frames that came in the original nucleus, along with a couple of the outside frames, and I was pretty happy with the way that Hive was progressing. So at this point, I'm going to start to readjust the frame widths or locations so that I can get the last 8th frame back in that's hanging out on the outside, and then put the hive back together. So to try to prevent wonky comb, I spaced the frames to where they're from the dog ears perspective on each frame. They are touching in the centers, and then there's a little bit extra space on the far outside edges. That way, it prevents them from building additional burr comb in the middle.
We space them.
And then this is the 8th frame on the far south side. There's no comb at all on this, and just a few bees working it, trying to build up the comb. So now that I got the frames back in, spaced out, I'm going to smoke the bees down one more time, and I'm going to add on the new 8-frame hive body with 8 additional brand new frames and foundation. This goes again, once again, all this stuff is pre-staged off camera left here. So to try to minimize the amount of time I'm in the hive. Once again, it was a cool, windy day. They were not too happy about me being in here messing with their house. So. If I'd have had 10-frame equipment like most people in my area, I would not have added this additional hive body this week, simply because they'd only drawn out 2 additional frames. But since I'm using 8-frame equipment, they were at the point where they were ready for the additional frames. One of my goals this year is to try to get them to draw out as much comb as possible on all the various frames that I have, so that next year we can focus on production. So here I'm going to place the Cell hive top feeder back on. And then before I cap it off, I'm going to go ahead and add more 1-to-1 sugar syrup. Of course, there's always some bees who decide to go swimming in the sugar syrup. This sometimes feels like it's a losing battle when the top of the hive top feeder is open like this. And then the last step is to put the hive top back on. Once again, I'm not running an inner cover in this configuration because I'm using the hive top feeder. Just making sure it was lying flat, and then that completes everything. The second hive is the same process. I'm not really going to walk through that process. It's exactly the same. I just walked through, checked every frame, ultimately added the second hive top, additional hive body and the hive top feeder back on, and that kind of completed the inspection for today. So hopefully this made sense. So Thanks a lot.